the 20th. Recommendation that the committee of the whole meeting agenda for April 22nd, 2026 be approved as circulated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Rich, all in favor? And that's carried. We're without Councillor McCabe and Evans isn't coming today, but McCabe's not. Okay. Okay, recommendation that the minutes of the committee of whole meeting held on March 25th, 2026 be adopted. Councillor Beach, Councillor Bushel, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Okay, we're going to start this with the fire chief's first quarter update. Clayton, you're up. Chief, you're up.
All right. This is our first quarter operations report for the fire department from January 1st to March 31st. So we've had a total of 17 calls. 8 of them were alarms, 4 structure fires, and we've had 7.6 personnel coming out to each one of these fires. So 17 calls, that's I think pretty low for this quarter. I think it's a low below our average. And over here, the 2024, we started using this program halfway through 2024. So that's the 2024 numbers aren't correct. We've had 124 calls in the previous year and the 17. This is our incident log. So this tells us the date the call came in, what the call was, where it was at, and who was incident. Our average response time is 7 minutes. Our fastest response time has been 1 minute, and our slowest is 13. So we're working to lower our worst time of 13 minutes. Our average time on scene is 26 minutes, and our longest incident has been 1 hour 40 minutes. And that was a structure fire on the time. So we currently have 21 active members. We've had 2 promotions. Jared Leroy was elevated to deputy chief, and Steve Norton was elevated to captain. We've got 3 new recruits this year, and our attrition rate is 0. So we've had no one leave the department. The department average response is 41.5%. So we're getting about between 7 and 8 members out to each call. And this shows our response rate. So I've made 16 of the 17 calls, and it goes down from there. Incident types and member response, same thing, just in a different graph. 47% of our calls have been alarms, 23 structural fires, and 1 of each wildland, burning complaint, medical, hazmat, and line ban. For training summaries, we've had 13 training sessions, 27 total training hours. Average attendance has been 14.6 members every night, and a total of 394.5 member hours. And it kind of breaks down what our training is. For external training, we've had 25 external sessions, 142.5 hours, 2.4 average attendance, and our member hours are 286.5 hours. And again, that breaks down what we're training on. So looking ahead, recruitment and retention. We're continuing with current recruitment class started March 3rd, and we're going to start a new recruitment class in August 27th. Training and certification, we're continuing our wildland training and special teams, swift water, and hazmat. We're desperately looking for some hazmat training right now, which is hard to find. Apparatus and equipment, we purchased a new SCBA sequencer. And what that does, we had 8 for filling our air cylinders at the hull. We went from 12 large cylinders down to 4 cylinders. And with that sequencer, it'll maintain a steady pressure so we can keep filling our cylinders nonstop. And we were able to sell back the old cylinders to help us pay for that. Plus, we purchased 16 new SCBA bottles, which we were desperately in need of. Community operations, safety fair in June, we're hosting that. It should be a big event. It's been a few years since we hosted that, so it should be good. I'm looking forward to that. And we're planning on some mutual aid training with Swansea Point and Malfoy. And there's one more slide here we threw in for Fire Smart. I'm sure everyone's heard of our Fire Smart program. It's going really well. Activities include home assessments, the Resiliency and Training Summit, which we just returned from, Fire Smart presentations and public education, grant management completion, and just wildfire preparedness for the community. And priorities for 2026 is maintaining Fire Smart community recognition, expand neighborhood assessments, wildfire resiliency plan, review and implementation, community yard debris removal. And that's it. Anyone has any questions for that?
Awesome. Thanks, Clayton.
Hey, you're welcome.
Council. Oh, let's start with Bianca first. Finance.
I just wanted to note the sequencer and everything. So that was a successful Fire Smart grant that covered that. So
I've covered the bottles as well.
yes, and the bottles. So
Thank you. Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair. Clayton, is there any way we could piggyback on the railway for some hazmat training of some sort? Like, wouldn't they have for, wouldn't they want to go to communities that are along the railway and say we need, somehow, maybe there's a grant program with them or something like that? I don't know.
Well, that's worth looking into. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something we haven't considered in the past, but it's certainly that's something we can look into.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought about that. Yeah.
Well, it's a good idea because a lot of our hazmat is preparedness is for that railway.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Okay, good idea. Councillor Bailey, did you have your hand up? No.
But I would just say,
Okay.
thank you for the report. It's really great to have these updates. Like,
Okay, not a problem. I enjoy doing them.
I have, first of all, I just have a quick question for you. When you guys are out and about town, you notice something in someone's yard that is a serious fire hazard, do you reach out to them and let them know? And is there an opportunity as the fire department looking after a community, is there an opportunity for you to stop there and go, hey, you know what? This is a serious fire hazard.
Well, I'm sure them opportunities are out there. It's something I haven't done. I haven't noticed any serious fire hazards just driving around town. But with the Fire Smart program, there's a lot of fire hazards out there.
So could maybe Travis and Travis's travels point out some things? Because as we're doing our community cleanup and looking after our community and unsightly properties, so this all ties together, and safety of the community, I think that there might be an opportunity there to.
We are going to be going door to door more with the Fire Smart program.
Okay,
So that's an opportunity to go to anywhere we see any serious hazards. We can go knock on the door and talk to them about it. Absolutely.
okay, no, that sounds like a good plan, thank you. And Director Martin sends a big thank you to the Sycamoose Fire Department for all the help that you guys provided out at Malacqua. So
Right. Yeah.
from her, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. They had a busy day.
Yeah, yes, no, I know they did, yeah, for sure.
That's insane.
Sorry, Councillor Rich?
Oh, yeah, that was just insane. 3 fires in one day. Through the chair, schools keep asking, are we gonna have a foam pit ever again?
I think we are. We were talking about that last night. We want to put a foam pit together. We want it together for the June event.
Oh, awesome.
So, but it's
Yeah.
cash involved.
Yeah.
And so we're working on it though. Absolutely.
Awesome. It's such a great community.
It worked. It went over really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're hoping we can get it back together.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you, Clayton.
Thank you. Here's your clicker.
Thanks for all you do. Make sure you thank your team for us.
I'll do that.
Okay, thanks. All right, moving right along, we got invasive species communications plan presentation, Campton and Carly. Hi, Campton.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I'm sorry I can't be there to join you in person, but hopefully the audio is coming through nice.
Yeah, you are. Perfect.
Great. And I'm just going to ask Bianca to share my presentation on Canva if she wouldn't mind.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're here today to talk about the communications campaign for aquatic invasive species, specifically the Don't Move a Mussel movement. So since budget meetings, we've put our heads together and come up with a campaign, and we're just here to present it today and get any kind of feedback or thoughts from council. So with that, we'll just jump right in. Okay, so to set the stage, our core campaign objectives are to increase awareness and behavior changes around stopping at watercraft inspection stations, cleaning, draining, and drying all vessels and gears, understanding economic and infrastructure impacts, and overall protecting Sicamouse's way of life and the way of life in BC that we all know and love. The core partners that are involved in this campaign specifically are the District of Sicamous, who will take the lead on visual and content design for social media, website, and print, and Explore Sicamous, who will be taking the lead with digital advertising, which includes geofencing, so targeting ads to different parts of Canada that might be traveling to Sicamous, as well as meta advertising, which is on Facebook and Instagram. So we do have Carly and Brenna here today in the audience, so if there are any questions about digital advertising, they'll be more than happy to answer those at the end. I also thought that it was really important to outline on this slide that we've reached out to a bunch of key stakeholders, including the Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society, the Shuswap Watershed Council, the Sicamous Chamber of Commerce, and the Visitor Center, as well as the Salmon Arm Visitor Center, just to share a heads up that this is a campaign that the District of Sicamous will be taking on this summer so that they can really keep an eye out for our content, and when they get tagged, they know what our objectives are. And I'm really grateful I heard back from Erin from the Shuswap Watershed Council just this morning, and we're planning on having a meeting in the upcoming weeks so that we can align our messaging and really make sure that this campaign has the best impact that it possibly can. Thanks, Bianca. Next, I'll just do a quick overview of our content pillars. So we've got 4 kind of key topics or areas that this campaign will focus on, the first being protecting our way of life. So this type of content will focus on the emotional and economic impact of invasive mussels, specifically regarding tourism, boating, marinas, beaches, and infrastructure. So these will be the highly visual parts of the content that really show what's at risk. Next, we have education, which is really focusing on clear behavior instructions, how to identify invasive mussels, exactly how to clean, drain, and dry your boat, what constitutes water gear. You know, some people don't realize that kayaks are something that definitely needs to be cleaned, drained, and dried, and you need to stop at a watercraft inspection station. So education is our second pillar that we'll really be focusing in on. Next, we have know the law, and that's a big part of, you know, it's the law. You have to stop at inspection stations. It's mandatory. It's not an option. Same thing with pull the plug legislation, really raising some awareness about that. And then also the fines that are associated with not knowing the law and not stopping at inspection stations or transporting your vessel correctly. And then our last content pillar is advocacy and leadership. And this is really going to drill down on all of the amazing work that the District of Sicamous has done in the last 5 years, maybe even 6, in terms of resolutions brought forward to bigger conferences, different funding asks, and the repeated objective of raising awareness and getting more funding put towards preventing the spread of invasive aquatic species, and then really just highlighting the leadership role that the District of Sicamous wants to play in this conversation, and that's through partnership with other agencies. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we're talking in terms of content. So to get into a bit of the tactical outlook of this campaign, we will have this campaign featured on our sicamous.ca website, and that will include educational resources, information on prevention, and insight into the District of Sicamous's existing and upcoming advocacy. As I'm sure lots of people have seen, we do have a Don't Move a Mussel banner on the homepage of our website, but this part of the campaign is really going to focus on building some of those resources and redirecting to sources that have done so much research and advocacy so that there's a really solid landing page for anyone who's looking through our website to find and understand that this is something that is important to Sicamous and something that impacts everybody who lives in Sicamous and the surrounding area. Quick overview of the social media campaign that we have planned out. So it's going to run from May to September 2026 and include a mix of content topics and types. It will be shared with partner organizations. So, for example, CSIS will be tagged, the Shuswap Watershed Council will be tagged, City of Salmon Arm, really just drilling into that list of partners and people who are equally as impacted and encouraging them to share and be a part of this campaign. We'll also have so much cross-platform collaboration with Explore Sicamous and local visitor agencies. So a quick example of that is there's a tool on Instagram where if you make a post, you can invite a collaborator, and then that post is shared on behalf of both of the accounts. And this is a tactic in the social media world that really helps improve reach and get more eyes on the content. In my experience, it also really builds credibility, because if it's something that's coming not only from the District of Sicamous, but also Explore Sicamous and the City of Salmon Arm, if you can really group those profiles together, then it really improves the strength of the messaging. So on the right, you can see kind of in the background, that's an overview of what my, the back end of my brain looks like in terms of scheduling out the content. It's color coded based on those content pillars that I introduced a bit earlier and runs all the way from May through September. And then on top, we've just got a couple examples of what the micro brand for this campaign will look like. So using all of our District of Sicamous colors, fonts, but really making it distinct so that if people see content that looks like this, they know it's part of this campaign. Next, we've got our print and physical materials that will be a part of this campaign. So this will include business cards with information about the campaign, postcards and posters that will be distributed to marinas, boat launches, docks, and visitor centers. So we're developing a couple different types of posters that we can bring around town, give to Salmon Arm or anybody else who wants to participate. That's also been a part of the outreach. Hey, if you want physical materials, let us know, and we'll add you to our list. And then the campaign information will also be included in the property tax mailout that's going out shortly. So all of the residents in Sicamous who get their property tax notice will know that this is something that the District of Sicamous is doing. So that'll be about half a page on the property tax insert, just with some information. And again, a good reminder for people to look out for this type of content that we'll be sharing. And then another little glimpse into the back end of my brain, our work plan is really detailed in keeping us on track. And at the end of the day, we wanted to really make sure that we included a lot of checkpoints where we could make sure that we're going towards our objectives. So social media and digital advertising analytics will be evaluated throughout the entirety of the campaign. And we're really going to focus on ensuring that the creative, so the graphics that people are seeing in the advertisements and what's being shared online, and the targeting, so the audiences that this content is getting to, is effective. I think at the end of the day, like any good campaign has those kind of checkpoints where you get to, reflect and see what's working, really mine into some of the engagement metrics, and then you can adjust to make sure that the campaign is as effective as possible. And then I just thought that I would share a quick note. As I'm sure lots of you in the room know, I've been doing a lot of driving lately, and I drive through Golden a lot. And the last time I was there, I stopped at the Watercraft Inspection Station, so it is indeed open, and I got to chat with two of the conservation officers there about their job, how things are going, what they're expecting for the season, and take some photos that can really be incorporated into this campaign. It was also just a really good opportunity to take a look at some of their equipment. So like the bottom middle photo, that's one of their decontamination trailers, and so that we can really just use this content so people know what to look for. And, just a really good opportunity to give them a heads up that this is something that the District of Sicamous is doing. And, all of the people working there gave great kudos and recognized that this is really a shared responsibility and something that the District of Sicamous should be really proud of doing. So I thought I'd pass that on from my field trip. And that's all I have. So if there are any questions or comments, I can answer some of them. If there's anything about digital or advertising, then Carly and Brenna will take the lead, but I hope that gave a good overview.
Great. Thank you, Hampton. Council? Council Bushel.
Through the chair. Yeah, great work, Captain. Thanks for all the hard work you did on this. I like it. I think it's great for the Shuswap and Sicamous in general. But is there any way we could utilize maybe for some of that handout of print information? We could utilize the info on the go staff that are out there all the time. I wonder if there's anything we could do with them. And another thing I was kind of thinking about is there's nothing better than talking face to face like you did with the inspection station is, and I know Pam brought this up once about knowing if a boat has been ever inspected. And I know this is a big program, but even for Sycamoose, like if Colleen, she's at the marina, she sees the boats launching all the time. If there was some kind of indication on the boat, whether it be a little sticker by where the hook is, where you put it on the nose or something, they've already been talked to, or they've already been given that business card or that flyer, and they're aware of it. And it would be good to kind of somehow do a little bit of a survey with those info on the go people and see if they know anything about mussels. Did they stop? And if they did stop, did they get educated? Or, it's just something, I'm just, trying to spitball here. But it's just something to think about, if we could utilize info on the go, and of course the marinas that are already at the boat launches, if they ever had, extra staff that some time of the day they could have somebody down there for 15 or 20 minutes, just to, not every day, but every once in a while, just to make sure they're getting checked up on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having those info on the go people in the community is really helpful for visitors who might not know anything about it. So we'll definitely make sure that some of those print materials are available to the Chamber of Commerce, the Visitor Center, and then in our outreach and our conversations, we'll give them those ideas for some ways that they can really support it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey, then Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I like that idea. I was actually gonna suggest something, when you go get your oil changed, wonder if you can give out one of those little stickers you can put on your boat, like clean, drained, and dried. Something like that where people can actually participate. So I just maybe give that as a suggestion. Then I just have, I guess, two questions, one for Curly, one for you, Camden. One, what are the overall KPIs for the campaign? Like, where do you want to be at the end of it? And then I guess to Carly, what are we looking at in terms of a spend on the digital ad budget? So I don't know who wants to go first.
I can't see if Carly's going up. Oh,
Yeah,
there she is.
So through the chair, so we're focusing on two of the key periods, May 8th to 19th, and then June 22nd to July 5th. We're going to look at the metrics and then possibly add in an August song. So right now we're looking at about between a $600 and $1,000 spend. We're going to really measure that first one before May long weekend to see where the reach is. Our targets are very much defined from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and a little bit into Alberta. So we're really hitting those people that are coming. Brenna's working on scripts we're going to do some sponsored ad static posts using Campton's content. And then we're going to create an educational reel that says, so that people understand, because they see the clean, drain, dry, they see don't move a muscle, but I don't think there's a lot of people that don't understand that it does apply to kayaks and canoes and stuff like that. So really covering that span of what does it mean to clean, drain, and dry. And I think that we hope to see a lot of traction through targeting like boating adventure, shuswap, paddling, using a lot of the key terms when we're targeting for people that have already defined their interests and then pushing those. So we're not sure how the outreach, we would love to see, thousands and thousands of views and clicks. If we need to up our spend, we do have a contingency fund of an additional $500 that we can apply to the June campaign once we really see what that looks like from May.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Pam, go ahead.
Okay, and then in terms of KPIs for the camp.
Oh, just one sec.
Sorry, I thought you said Campton. Go.
That's okay. You know what? Just finish, Campton, finish what you're going to say, and then I'll get Councillor Beach.
Okay, sounds good. In terms of KPIs, especially in the social media side of things, because I've been in charge of, not really in charge of, but involved with all of the district's channels for the past 3 years, I have a pretty good idea of what a good post looks like. And a number that I'm often looking at is the reach. It's not always necessarily the engagement, like, oh, if I get 100 likes, it's a good post. It's how many people share the post and how many eyes are actually on it. So I'm going to be doing some comparative, looking at all the platforms, seeing how something that we post about an unrelated topic goes over. If that metric can be compared to the campaign, then that's how I'm going to be kind of looking at it and just making sure that it's getting in front of people. So really keeping an eye on reach metrics, shares, and then collaborations. Like if we can get some other agencies on board and attaching their name to our campaign, that's how we'll know we're in a good spot.
Thank you, excellent, yeah.
Okay, thank you, through the chair. So, yeah, I just wanna say thank you to Campton. I wanna say thank you to the district because you've been leading on this issue, invasive species, since before I got on council, and I feel like what we're talking about here, Campton, what you're proposing is leading edge again. And Gord, I love the idea about marking. We do have to indicate which boats have been inspected, but I think that needs to be a bigger program, and it needs to start provincially. It needs to start on a larger scale, but maybe if we do it locally, then we've got something to say, hey, go to our conferences and to the, so that federal conference and say FCM and say, this needs to be done. Like this needs to be done to protect all of our provinces, all of our lakes. And because us knowing which boats have been inspected and haven't been when they come through here is absolutely critical in my mind. So that's great idea, but I think we're gonna have to approach it in a couple of different ways, that's all.
Thank you. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, Campton, thanks for putting this together. Like, what a great spend. We're creative in what we were going to spend our money on this, and this looks really great. I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm wondering if I'm like, what does every boat person, not so much kayak, but boat person, and a lot of people with boats have paddle boards too, do, and they all need gas. And have we thought about not just the marinas, but a lot of people get gas at the gas stations, and I'm like, how are you going to get them to read it because they don't go in? And I'm wondering if we can talk to the gas stations and just put a sticker on the pump and there's a QR code and it could say win. Maybe they're getting a Sycamoose mug. They don't know what they're winning, but when they hit that QR code, then this pops up, because not every thing going into the water needs gas, but all the boats do, and a lot of boaters do have paddle boards and kayaks and stuff like that. So not just the marinas, because a lot of people do fill up at the gas stations. It's cheaper, right? So they pull their boats through in the morning. And I just thought that might be a good place to target.
I can definitely add them to my outreach list and I'll go talk to them. Yeah, that's good. It's nice to have other brains thinking of all the places that the boaters could be.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, that's a great idea. Another thing, like in the US, when you go to a lot of reservoirs or lake systems down there, a lot of boats need permits for those lakes. So they all have a sticker that they have to put on the boat, and federal law or whatever it is, they know who's supposed to be on the lake and who's not supposed to be on the lake. But that's really important. If you had some, it's a provincial thing, but it's a bigger picture. But it's really important that you try to get them to learn that they have to know about mussels. And the other thing is the education. You get your boat license. Does it become part of the boat license system when you get a boat license that they have to, maybe there's 2 or 3 questions on there when they get their boat license. So it's just something that's a bigger picture, but we can keep feeding the province, and hopefully hopefully we'll get on the radar.
Yeah, it says Councillor Beach.
Oh, yeah, and that just made me realize too that, boating is our biggest industry here, but we're talking about all water recreation, right? We're talking about fishermen, we're talking about fishing gear. And
float planes.
Yeah, yes, and planes landing on the lake. So it's a much bigger thing, and we have to, I think, as a council and a district, we have to keep advocating for it to be treated with appropriate seriousness by our provincial government and our feds.
Thank you. So I have just a couple comments. First of all, working with ASIS's really close, because as we're looking at print, they already print a lot. So maybe some of our funds could go into more reach, because that's where we need this. We need to share this message in Alberta, in Saskatchewan. That's because most of our words, mine are, when I put on my other hat, they're coming from Alberta. So, or Saskatchewan. And as a marina operator, when I get a call for a boat coming in, I find out where the boat's coming in from. So I think targeting the marina operators is very key. I always find out where the boat's coming from. If they're coming from farther than Saskatchewan, I go, are you aware of clean, drain and dry? Your boat will have to be inspected before you get to the marina. Like I make sure that I share that message with them. I'm not sure if all marina operators share that message. So, yeah, you might want to connect with all the marinas in town that bring boats in, for moorage or repairs. Because that's a way to make them aware as they're coming in. But I think it's mostly, it's important that we get as far reach as possible. You know, and, yeah, because Sycamoose, I mean, we do a decent job here. We do have stuff on the shelves. We do have, info on the go, was at the boat ramps giving out stuff. So we already have that. But what we need is reach. We need to make sure that we're sending a message that the inspection stations need to be, you know, and that's funny that you stopped at the Golden Inspection Station, because I do that every time I go through. They're gonna get tired of hearing about Sycamoose. Because I'm from Sycamoose, we're just checking and seeing how, you know, how this is going. We're invasive species or invasive species aware, so I always do that. So I encourage everyone to stop and chat with the with the inspection station there. But yeah, I think reach and is really key. And if we can find some money by utilizing CISA's cards and pamphlets and brochures, maybe, you know, on our reach, we can make sure that Sycamoose is recognized as an invasive species awareness location. Like, just keep spreading that message. But the farther out we go, and if you can connect with someone in or in Alberta or in Saskatchewan and share our material and what we're doing here. And I hate this that we're getting downloaded by the province, because this is a provincial and federal problem because it's water. But I mean, it is what it is. But great job. Thank you so much for all that you did and doing. Go ahead, Captain.
I just had one more quick comment, and that is that the postcards are going to be included in the visitor guide mail out that Carly's doing. That's an important part too. And I think that that also kind of speaks to your comment about reach and how important it is. So in terms of print materials, that's one way that we've devised it for sure, that we're going to make sure that our materials are getting outside of Sycamoose, farther to more audiences. But yeah.
Perfect. Any more questions? That's it. Thank you, Captain, so much. Great job. Nice seeing you. Take care.
Good seeing you. Have a good meeting.
Okay, see you later. Okay, we are going to go to unsightly premises discussion. Dean, take it away.
So, Mayor and Council had requested that we add to the committee of the whole agenda discussion on the good neighbor bylaw and unsightly premises. So we included the bylaw within your packages. We're ready for any discussion you wish to have.
Mr. Bushel, would you like to kick this conversation off?
Yeah, I just noticed that they seem to be like spring flowers out there. They're popping up everywhere, and not only are they popping up everywhere, they're actually, they're actually an accessory building, I guess if you want to call it. And they're a lot cheaper than little plastic storage lockers you can buy at Home Depot and Costco. So everybody's buying them, and they're cheap. You can buy a big one for $2,500 cheaper than you can buy at Costco. And they're not, some are painted blue, some are painted pink, they stick out like sore thumbs. So I just think, they're not really in I guess they're accessory building, but they're not labeled in some of our bylaws, and we should maybe bylaws that actually talk about CCANs. And just thought it should be a discussion that we should start working on, because it's getting out of hand.
Thanks. And that is, all the CCANs that are popping up around. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I mean, I just probably brought it out even beyond CCANs, and just, this last year I've been in a lot of places, a lot of similar sized towns in British Columbia and Alberta. And I have to say that I was a little disappointed to say this, but the towns look a little messy. And in comparison, you know, all the towns, whether I've been on the island or I've been in Alberta or I've been in other places in Okanagan, some of the things that you see when you come into Sycamus are certainly getting to the untied point. And I don't think that's productive for our town. I think it's actually counterproductive for what we're all trying to do in terms of economic development, tourism, quality of life for our residents, when we have clearly unsightly parcels and not just a few, but many. And I mean, I'm not going to list through them, but I think we all know how many there are around town. And it's not, like you said, this isn't just a conversation of us being picky. That's not what this is. This is about something that has gone way far beyond where it should be. And how it's time to, I think, get that back. Because if we don't, what happens, and we kind of made a remark there that it's like spring flowers, it multiplies. And I think that's what we've seen. We've seen an increase in unsightly premises. We've seen premises where I would say it's people aren't even making an effort to keep them in order. I mean, we're not talking about somebody that, you know, is in the process of cleaning up or you're doing renovations, or no, it's just left there. And it's just seems to multiply and in some cases get worse. And I think that's why we have this dialogue. And we have to actually enforce it actively. And we have to make sure that we're taking measures to clean up some of these sites that are, this is not just a month or two problem. This is a multi-year problem. And so there's been, I think, a lot of effort put in to mitigate concerns about that. But we're not seeing results. And now kind of where I am is results have to happen, and they have to happen, I think, quickly, because there's really no more excuse for it, right? It's like I said, if there was some sort of issues around construction or people are in the process of cleaning up, then that's one thing to give leniency on. But when there is no movement at all, zero, on some of these high profile sites that we know that have been an issue, then that's just ignoring our bylaws. And I think that's harmful to the town. And like I said, based on where I've been, and I've probably been to 20 different small towns, I think we're falling behind. And we shouldn't, and we can't. I think the town doesn't want to have that image, and I don't think we should. We're in a beautiful area, and there's a lot of great people in this town doing a lot of wonderful things to make sure their sites, whether it's businesses or homes or community groups, that are really doing an excellent job. And we can't let unsightly premises detract from all of that beauty which is in this town. And I think by not acting, we would do a disservice. So I'm solidly on the side of acting and acting quickly and making sure that this gets addressed immediately. And if we need some more resources, we can talk about that.
Thank you, Councillor Rich.
Yeah, through the chair, I guess. Thanks again for everything you said. I agree. And that was my question is, do we need more resources? I know we have a part-time person coming in for the summer to help out, but this is going to be a big job. And is that something we need to look at if we're going to act quickly and efficiently and fairly to everybody that's maybe having these issues? Do we need more resources?
Councillor Bushel? No, Dave, go ahead.
Just, I don't think we actually do. I think this direction to staff would be to seek more active enforcement instead of passive enforcement where we're waiting for someone to complain. A lot of the issues have either not been complained about recently or we're not getting direct complaints to the district. So you're asking for us to move in a more active enforcement way. And I don't think that's a change in the number of resources we need at this point. Depending on how the campaign proceeds, we may be back to ask for additional resources. But there's sort of three parts to it that I would see. One is the communications. We've got to get the message out. These is our bylaw, these are the rules, this is what we need to do. You're going to see letters coming out to property owners that are not maintaining them adequately. Get that communication out to the community. We have great resources for our staff to begin to do that part. That would begin right away. then we would actually begin to actively do some assessments in town, identify properties and addresses and begin sending letters to those property owners with timeframes to address their issue, giving them the opportunity to come speak to us. I do know we're dealing with some of these properties. It's not as straightforward as someone necessarily, some of them it is totally blatant, they're just not taking care of it. There is certainly some properties where you have people that physically just can't deal with it. So we are working with a couple of property owners on those properties to try and address them, where they just physically need some help. But those are the outliers to it. So that would be the three kind of components I see. And then once we get to the letter point, that's where we're gonna understand if necessary resources are there. Like I said, do we need some resources where we can have some staffing to actually support people doing it? We've got a couple of properties where that likely is the case. At this point, we haven't asked council for that. That may be where we're at. So I would ask that we actually do the first two steps, get the letters out, and then report on how that's progressing. See how much of a difference it's making and whether we need to apply resources to actually doing cleanup. That'd be my recommendation.
Can I have a follow?
Councillor Bushel? Go ahead, and then Councillor Rich.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Yeah, I just, Siobhan and I went to the First Impressions wrap up at the medical center there. Sheila put on a first impression thing with seven other communities. I can't remember. But anyways, it was a wrap up of all the communities. So there's representatives from, like, Thunder was there from Inderby, and there was all kinds of different people from different communities. And it was really, really good to listen to the chair of the meeting, and I think Renata King was there from Southern Interior. What was the name of it again? It changed their name. They changed their name a couple times. It was Economic Trust of Southern Interior. They hosted funded the whole program, and just it was really interesting to look at the other communities and listen to some of them talk about going into different communities and first impression. And we really don't have that first impression because everybody stays on the highway. So the highway is your first impression. And as soon as you come into our highway, anywhere you come in, it's nothing but sea cans, one after another. And it's not just sea cans. There's other places that they could clean up their properties, but a little friendly reminder would be really good. And first impression means everything when you're traveling on the highway, for sure. Well,
Thanks. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, just to follow up for Dean. What do you think the timeline's gonna look like for that?
our communication, we can begin that work right away. We'll work with Campton on how to set that up. Obviously, she's got another campaign that she's working on right now. We also have the recreation one that's getting involved. So sometime in the next couple of weeks, we begin to look at how that communication plan will be strategized. We'll begin doing assessments. We'll work with our bylaw enforcement officer to do some assessments. I've got an idea and a list of properties myself already. We'll focus on the corridors within the community. I think that is a key message. I think that is an important place to begin. Identify some of those properties and begin sending letters out within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, Chair. My feeling, just looking at where we've got what appears to be work happening, but it goes so far and then it sits very visible right on Main Street, right on Finlayson. So I'm wondering if our bylaws go far enough about, sort of the kind of fencing to decrease visibility and that kind of thing when you're in progress, doing work on your property. And I think you know which properties I'm talking about, but they look like they're doing something, but the equipment sits there and it doesn't move quite a while. So I don't know if we can do.
So I think that's part of the first step for us
Yeah.
is to do the assessments, identify where we've got issues with that, and begin to send letters to these property owners. You have to begin the actual enforcement process that way. You get a letter, you respond to it, you do something, or you don't. The next letter may include a ticket of some kind. That's our bylaw process. So then the third letter has a subsequent ticketing that gets triggered in value as you progress. That's the process we need to follow in order to actually take more substantive action if required.
So I'd like staff to do this as quick as they possibly can. I didn't realize that our bylaw was a complaint-driven system. Like, I mean, our bylaw is pretty clear about the accumulation of junk, filth, litter, brush, discarded materials, rubbish, garbage, yard waste, derelict vehicles. It's pretty clear in our bylaw. So do we just wait till the neighbors phone and go, hey, my neighbor's got a yard full of stuff here?
No, it's not that the bylaw is passive, it's the enforcement of our bylaws. So if we obviously see something in our travels, we follow up on that. I do that on a regular basis all the time. But we're not out in the communities looking for issues, looking at properties and identifying things and then sending letters. That's the more active. If there's a complaint, we act on a complaint. It's a complaint-driven system. That's been established here in Sycamores. We can shift it to a more active enforcement program, and it's a catch-22. I think certainly we'll see how this works. It does become onerous if we get to a point where we're having to deal with dozens and dozens of properties, but I don't think we're at that particular point. That's where I mentioned about resources. If we get partway through this campaign and realize we're spending amounts of time and we just don't have resources for them, maybe back to council to ask for additional resources.
Thanks. This is not new. So I've been on council for this is 12. This will be my 12th year sitting here. And for the last, since I got on council, this has been a problem in our community. And we keep talking about it and we keep talking about it. We have bylaw and bylaw's not enforcing and bylaw's not given the direction to go out there and enforce this and start, going, okay, you know what, that's unsightly. I'm going to just go back, write a letter and get this moving. So we need that aggressive bylaw situation going forward. And we need to be more aggressive on this. We need folks in Sycamores to know that we are serious about our community. We have many people coming in right now, knocking on our door that want to develop, that want to be part of Sycamores. And for us to have literally a junkyard just behind City Hall is embarrassing. And the property owner should be embarrassed as well. Because it's unsightly, it's been there forever, and we should be finding them already because we have had this discussion many times. So this discussion for me right now, just if something isn't done, it's just like it's falling on deaf ears again. So we really need to take an aggressive stance on what's going on in the community and cleaning up some of these properties because we do have some really great developers coming in and doing some great things here. And people looking for property. But, there's absolutely, you pull into town from highway coming down 97 and you hit 2 Mile and boom, there's an unsightly property there that was promised to not be an unsightly property. So we need to start being aggressive and calling out some of these junkyards. I don't know of a better word. So, Councillor Bailey, then Jean.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, Ellie. I mean, I feel like I've not been here 12 years, been here 3.5. And I feel like I started out my term as, okay, well, you try to have the conversations, you try to encourage, you try to do those things that you hope would lead to some sort of results. And it's just not happening. It's a total failure. So that approach has been a complete failure. And I see that things are progressing in the wrong direction. It's absolutely not going where we want it to. It is going even further kind of down the drain in the wrong direction. So I to fix a problem, you gotta acknowledge the problem. And I will say I was one of those people who said, well, okay, let's try to urge people to do the right thing. It didn't happen. So I agree with you that it's time to jump over some of these steps and get right to absolute fines on some of these sites that have been multi-year problems. The other issue, so this is well known, right? Well known in the community, but I think we can jump the step of being kind of nice and like talking about it. We've done that for so many years, so I agree with you there. The other thing is land use. There are we have bylaws and zoning for a reason, and there's things on sites that are not zoned for that, period, right? It's not allowed, not permitted. This is not in question, right? You can't just turn a commercial parking lot into a parking lot. Just can't do it, right? I mean, it's not zoned for that. So we need to say, here's what it's zoned for, you need to use it like that. It would be the equivalent of going and knocking down a commercial unit and putting up residential stuff. We wouldn't allow it. So why do we allow it otherwise? Because there's, vehicles or something parked on it. The other thing, temporary fences. We don't allow temporary fences. This is another clear, absolutely thing. If you're doing active construction, sure, no problem. But some of the stuff that we are overlooking are just complete no-brainers. And it's just not allowed. But what happens is when we overlook this, and I feel like this, I mean, I'll accept my role of any responsibility that I would have, because I've overlooked some of it too, is it compounds on itself. Like it builds, it doesn't, like sticking your head in the sand has just enabled more of it to happen. And so I would say the low hanging fruit that are so obvious, we gotta get on that this week, right? Next week at the latest, because we need to start turning this around. And I understand that it's not going to be an immediate thing, but action has to happen. And we should have been on this long ago. When we have a town that has exponential seed cans growing like flowers, and you got a problem. And that's what we have. But it's not just that, it's temporary fencing, it's land use that's not applied to the actual zoning, and on and on and on and on. And I don't think I need to, everybody sees it around. So this is not a hidden issue. It's something that I think we've been soft in our approach on. But again, we actually have the bylaw that says it's not allowed. There you go. Fix it. And we can't allow zoning to be used for something clearly is not zoned for. Then why do we have our zoning bylaws, right? Why do we zone that parcel that? The zone commercial, the zone, like I said, if it's, then it has to follow it. If it's not, get it off the site, period. Like don't want to see it, right? And I think that's where we need to be.
Thanks, Sam. Dean, go ahead.
So I was gonna suggest that I do a monthly report to council. I can certainly add this to what I give you an update on, so you're getting a monthly update as to where we're at with this particular issue. I understand its necessity for action. I haven't been here for 12 years, I've been here for 14 months, so we'll certainly get on it and get moving with it, and we'll do our very best. And I can report monthly to you on how we're progressing, to give you updates on where we're at, and where things are progressing, how many letters have gone out, what actions we've seen, and hopefully we start to see a difference in the community. These campaigns or these efforts, the letter really doesn't mean much unless people actually do it. So, there's a mix of sticking your carrot scenario. There's a mix of action based on knowledge, and then there's a mix of action based on a bit of concern about fines and so forth. So you have to have both. I think it's been clearly identified that the embarrassing part of just being called out is not adequate for some people, and that secondary part of having financial consequences and not following may need to happen. So that's fine. I understand.
Councillor Bushman.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I remember calling that, and it's been going on for a while. And I think when Evan was our CAO, we talked about it a couple meetings, and we kind of agreed at that time not to have enforced bylaws, just complaint driven. So we kind of did that back in the day with Evan, and then it kind of even maybe into when Kelly was here. But Dean, if you need a motion to change our bylaw to instead of
Complaint
driven to bylaw driven.
active enforcement.
So it's not necessarily that I need a resolution from you on that, but I would need a resolution requesting that we move from complaint driven to active on this particular issue. I would not recommend to council that you begin active enforcement on all bylaw enforcement. I think that's probably a bit too big of a signal, can have flashback to you as a council unintentionally. So I think I would recommend you to council, you do a resolution requesting the staff move from complaint-driven enforcement to active enforcement on the issue of unsightly premises. With that would be the shipping container resolution that was provided last council meeting. We already have that in place, so that one is being worked on now. So this would be added to it, but a resolution saying that would be helpful to us. Because then we've got clear direction to me as your CAO that I can work with staff on.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I'd also just add on to the unsightly premises, but also land use. Like that, there's some clear violations of that. So we need to, so I'd make that motion to have active enforcement on the unsightly premises and, you know, land use issues on plots. I would say some of them are quite obvious.
Any land use issues that you identified directly, Tom, because we've already got active enforcement on that. A lot of the active enforcement council wouldn't see. So letters are going out on land use issues on a regular basis. I do those letters myself. So I'm actively taking enforcement action on property owners that are non-compliant with the zoning bylaw. We always have active enforcement on it. We've never had any direction from council to move away from active enforcement, nor should we, on zoning bylaw compliance or building code compliance. As was noted with our fire chief, anything that's identified by the fire department, building inspector, our bylaw enforcement, or myself in the community that has a fire, has a building, or has a zoning bylaw, it's enforced on. Once it's identified, we take action on it. So anything that you identify that's a land use or zoning, just tell me, send me a note. We address that anyways. You don't need resolution on that. We're actively acting on those as we see them. And even some of them come through social media. People begin to post their advertising campground locations in areas where there's no campground. They immediately receive a registered letter advising them that's not permitted. And they're not allowed to do that. And we're actively informed that if they were to proceed with that, they would receive fines and would be stop work orders and require the trailers to be removed. They haven't taken any further action on it. So they are not doing that. So there is active enforcement. We are the nicest people in the world where we can be aggressive when we need to be. We try to be as great a customer service, but sometimes the customer needs a little more firmness than others, and we'll continue to do that.
Gord, do you want to comment or you want to second that?
Well, I'll second that.
Okay, discussion.
And just, I guess, you talked about carrot and stick. I want to say, I've moved off the carrot. Really not into the carrot anymore. So more of the stick, because like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but I feel like we've been down the road of trying to control and here's a carrot, hoping it's good or anything. It's not there. And so what I'm worried about, here's what I'm really worried about, like around the timelines, is that it just kind of gets drawn out. And kind of where I am, like you're trying to get the temperature of council and just study where I am. I'm more along the accelerated timelines at this point, because I do think it's hurting the town. It's hurting our economy, it's hurting tourism, it's hurting residents' quality of life in town. It's gotten to that point. So unfortunately, I think we should have had this discussion earlier. I think we kind of had it around the edges, but if you're trying to get a temperature of council, I'm solely on let's accelerate this, let's get some real action, let's get some wins. And if we're not going to get wins, then we're going to get fines and we're going to get compliance one way or another.
Thank you, Shauna.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Did we actually get a resolution?
That's what I was just gonna ask.
So
Yeah, I think it.
I wanted to put land use in,
Yeah.
you already said you're actively doing that, so I'll make the motion that we move to active enforcement on the good neighbor bylaw. And I already said the other one, so I don't have to put that in.
And Gord's going to stand as a second.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm
Yeah.
that you were good with that amendment. Thank you.
Gord's already said, yeah. So, yes, I guess, so the next question is, what is the penalty? So we have fines. So once you add up all these fines for non-compliance, and do they get deducted from taxes? What legally, what's the ramification if someone's getting fined week after week after week and it's like,
It's interesting, the financial fines don't generally add up to significant dollar values. But the process is very important. If you ever have to go to court action, you have to demonstrate that the process was followed and that you had a reasonable and fair process. And I've been through this a few times. When you get before the judge and the judge looks at it, they ask you, what did you communicate? What did your first letter say? What was the ticket for that? What was the response? And when was the second ticket? Any more than 2 tickets, the courts view as punitive. So beyond 2 tickets, you gotta evaluate whether you're actually getting somewhere or not. And are you going to proceed with legal action as a result of that, or are you going to look at a different course of action? So the process is important. It's not the punitive impact, it's the threat of further action. But you have to have that step-by-step process where the courts view it as being discriminatory or can view it as being, you're picking on one particular person. It has to be consistent and regular with all properties.
okay, so when you get to third and subsequent offenses and you're at the highest level, so how often are you sending these out? Like is there a specific, what's the 180? Sorry, I can't read that far. Second, third, and subsequent may be ticketed as such if the subsequent offense occurs within 180 days following the date of the initial fine. That's a long time. That's a long time.
So,
Mhm.
okay. So normally in this type of enforcement, this experience is you provide the timelines of the letter. So you ask for specific dates, and I've got one active right now where I provided the date at the end of April for one component, the end of May for a secondary component. So you are able to provide dates within it, as long as they're viewed by the courts as being reasonable. So if you've asked for something that can't possibly be done within the time frame you've provided, that's not viewed well by the courts. But if it's simply to have something removed and you ask for it to be removed by the end of the month in order to avoid additional fines, that is viewed as reasonable. So the timelines should be established in the enforcement letters. It's very important you do that. So when you see our enforcement letters, when they go out on land use or on bylaw infraction, we'll provide timeframes in those letters of when the action must be. Key to that is people are not so fearful of the fine, they're fearful of the follow-up, right? It's the, will you actually follow up? Am I just getting a letter I can throw the recycling and nothing's ever gonna happen? It has to be consistently dealt with. So you gotta come back, you gotta be there for the next date, you have to view the property. And when they realize that you're serious with that, then, normally you avoid the court components. As I've been doing this for about 25 years, 24 years now, but I've only been to court 3 or 4 times where it gets to that point. But it does happen. Some people just refuse to accept and you end up through the court system. And the consequences of that are not about this. This is not the consequences of it. Courts will award based on what works are required to be completed. And the punitive action is not related to the fine from the municipality. It's very minor in the thing. The actual biggest cost is our legal bill goes to the person that's been gone against. Those are far bigger than any fine we can ever apply. My last one was over $30,000 property owner as a result of their ongoing litigation against the city. They lost and they paid the $30,000 bill to the city for their legal action. So those are what happens when you get down to that case. I don't really want to see us go there. Our biggest effort will be on communication to begin with. We've got some very active, I think they've been highlighted. We've got some people, I intend to take immediate action. I sent letters out actually on Monday to 2 property owners that we've got issues with already. So I'm going to get on this. I will report back to council on a monthly basis, and I'm accountable to you for what we do as staff. So I intend to be accountable to you.
Councillor Beach?
No, I agree with everything that everybody is.
I just think that there should be consequences moving forward, and I think we need to be fairly aggressive. And I don't mean to sound like And I don't want any of us to sound like we're cranky mayor and council. I mean, our community is really important to us. We all work really hard to grow this community and to represent this community. And there are probably 80%, 90% of the people in this community that are going, thank you, mayor and council, for bringing this up and making it, you know, putting it on the top of the priority list. And then there's going to be 10% that will probably be on social media slamming us by 5 o'clock today. But please understand that we do this to keep our community welcoming and healthy and inviting, not because there's people that, not because we're picking on anyone. So I just want to make sure that that message is clear, that it's not, we're not picking, we're concerned about the community as a whole. Councillor Beale.
I guess what I did want to say is that the timeframes or, you know, the expectation of timeframes is really important. If we can do more with that and then when they're not compliant, we have a bit of a response.
We anticipated this conversation based on the request, so I began that process on Monday. So we're already in the process of doing what you just passed a resolution to do.
Okay, and yeah, we do. Go ahead. I don't know if we're finished. Go ahead, Councillor Rich.
The chair, so when we've got that 180 days up there in the bylaw, you're saying we can move faster than that? Because that's 6 months. So that's like an like that's, now it's fall again. And we've not, you know, and not just expecting tourists, you know what, the people in town are mowing their lawns and planting their flowers and painting their houses, and they don't want the person next door bringing down their property values. They're looking at people's junk. So I just, like 6 months is a huge number. So I don't know if we should be looking at changing that number.
Go ahead, Bianca.
How that 180 days reads is you have to give that second ticket within 180 days to give that higher ticket amount. So it actually it needs to happen faster. So if you give a first ticket and wait 200 days to give the second ticket, you have to give the lower amount.
Okay, yeah, but we could do it in 30 days instead of 180.
5 days.
Yeah, okay.
When you get to 180 days, the courts view it as being not the same offense.
Okay.
If you wait that long, you can't say, okay, I talked to you 180 days ago about your shipping container in your freighter, but you didn't do it. You wrote it now 6 months later and give me the second ticket. No, you have to follow up continuously, and that's the key part: is the continuous communication.
Okay. Anyone else? Kate, let's call that question. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Again, it's about the health and well-being of our community and being welcoming and tidy. Okay, so moving along, we're going to go to, oh, where did Cal go? Councillor reports. Councillor Rich.
Well, through the chair, yeah, I got to go to the Chamber First Impressions. And like Gord said, that was great because we had 7 communities there. And we got to hear about the wins they had and also the things that they needed to improve on it. And they talked about our community too. So really great information. And people can actually get that report from Sheila. And it's really neat to read, actually. There's a lot of really great information. And then I got to go on the sewer tour with Daryl, and that was, it's always fun because it just, I know it's sewer, but it's neat to see how it all works, and it gives you a huge understanding of what a massive job it is and what these guys do to keep the town flushing. So very appreciative to have the tour, but very appreciative to see what you guys do, and it's pretty darn complicated, and they've got it down to a science.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bushell.
Yes, through the chair. I attended a Zoom meeting, Understanding Modern Treaties in BC with George Abbott. And it was hosted by UBCM, and George was the host on there. I guess you want to call him a host. It was really informative, and you can still get it. You can go online and take a look at it, but that was very informative. I attended the Sheila's first impressions, and yeah, I even indicated to Sheila that she should maybe bring that presentation, because she had a big presentation that the Economic Trust put together. So she might do that. Also attended the sewage treatment plant tour with Daryl and Dean. Thank you very much. That was very interesting to see the new RIB location. What else did I do? Just to remind everybody, we have the community cleanup this Saturday. So Todd was very kind to lend us his dump trailer, so we don't have to drag it all out of the trailer like we used to back in the early days. But yeah, no, Todd's been really good every year donating the trailer. And so everybody, we're at the rec center at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, and I think there's lunch served, but you have to register at the front desk. So everybody get in line and register. And thanks, Daryl, for your crew for getting it all pre-ready and everything. Thank you.
I thought Sheila retired.
I think she's in there working today. She's in there for, I think she got a couple more days.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's retiring, or she has retired.
Retired as executive director.
Okay,
Helping with the transition.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, I didn't, yeah, okay. Councillor Bushel, I'm Councillor Beach. More. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, that was my fault. I messed up. I also forgot to tell you about the Eagles. The Eagles joined a new hockey league. So that's gonna happen. Oh, they're working on that this summer, and there's like 7 teams, and it's really gonna help the kids progress and cut down on travel. And so they're all excited about that. And talking to Jake about the ball diamonds and stuff like that. So I have some stuff to go through with Dean later on. So yeah, everything's good.
And that's awesome. He's got 4 tournaments this year. He's got another one, hey? So that is excellent. Good for him.
As many as 20 teams on 2 of those tournaments.
Perfect. Wonderful to hear. See, that's why I called you Councillor Bushel, because I knew he wasn't done. I could feel it. Say, Councillor Beach, go ahead.
Yeah, so through the chair, I attended the rail trail roundtable on behalf of folks, and I had a nice trip together and had some good conversations. It was really interesting because Grinrod was sort of the big topic of how they're going to get the trail safe crossing through Grinrod, and so I think that's going to be interesting to discuss overpasses and intersections like our push button stop. So I think that the Grinrod piece of the trail now is that connector through there is kind of was the main topic of what we were talking about. But it was really interesting, and I think our section is being it was been pretty well received, and yeah, everyone they did actually even comment on the ferry connection, and yeah, so yeah, I think
Excellent.
it's coming along really nicely.
Thank you.
We get it safely through Grinrod for all the school children, and I think it will be great.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
I don't have too much to report other than, we're getting businesses ready and the decks painted, and all the wonderful things that every business owner is doing currently. It's getting ready for, I hope, to be in the spring and summer. One thing I do want to thank the district for was putting in bike racks. That's been noticed, and certainly I want to encourage every business to start looking at putting in bike racks at their business, because that's an emerging sport and recreation in town. We have the rail trail. We also have the bike park, and we have just so much bike infrastructure. More than I think businesses can use to encourage that and make sure we have bike parking, not just car parking. It is a great thing for the entire town.
Awesome. Thank you. Just back to Pam's roundtable, just so everyone is aware, the SWAT scene maintenance contract is 5 years. So the funding was hinged on them having the maintenance contract for 5 years. And I just wanted to share that just in case any of you heard that the contract was awarded to them. It is actually theirs for the next 5 years. Okay. So I attended the CSRD board meeting, and bylaw 900 was definitely a hot topic. And bylaw 900 is really hard to enforce because that means that the CSRD has to drive around the lake and try to pick up every buoy and every dock and manage those. So I was hoping for a repeal on 900, but we went through with a moratorium on most of it except for hazardous buoys. So if something is placed somewhere where it's hazardous, then the CSRD will enforce it. However, I still disagreed and voted against because I find that confusing. Like, just repeal it and call the ball, and because it's still going to cost taxpayers money for everything that they do to try and enforce that. And people need to recognize that those buoys should be licensed. They need to be licensed by the province, and that's the message that we should be sending. We should be communicating correct ways to put them in and not ways to, enforce them, but just be educational. So, yeah, so that was that. Then flood, the flood plan. Again, that was being passed down by the province to enter the new flood plans into the bylaws and things like that. So definitely I didn't support that. And I think that the province has enough permitting and legalese and riparian area. And so I think that's going to be really complicated. So I didn't want to encourage it. So the rail trail is now open and doing great. So really happy about that. I think they had I don't know how many bikes and folks traveling on it over the last 2 weekends. I do want to remind our guests to Sicamous that to pay attention to your parking. We want everyone here and we want everyone to enjoy the rail trail, but there is designated parking in Sicamous where you can park. And there is paid parking in Sicamous where you can park. So please don't park in front of people's houses where there's no parking or in front of no parking signs. We want you here, but we want to keep the community happy as well. So I just want to get that out there to be respectful as to where you're parking. Friday is the Backyard Ultra here in Sicamous, and that's always a fun event. So, and we are off to Silga next week. So starting on Wednesday, I think Silga starts, and I think everyone is, we haven't talked a lot about that, so I don't know who signed up for what and who's going or who's, okay, so, but anyway, it starts next week. And that's it for me. But I do want to talk a bit about, and if you could pull up strategic priorities before we go into public input, I just want to talk about our strategic priorities for a minute, because this is our last year as this council sitting together, and we don't know who's running and who's going to be sitting here moving forward. But if we look at our strategic priorities right now, I think we should maybe just get together at some point in the near future, this council, because there's a lot of things that we can change and a lot of things that come off. And when you look at the strategic priority report chart, you know what? We have done a lot. We've done a lot of work, and it's been all really, really good work. So we should all be really proud of what's happened in the last 4 years. You look at recreation and tourism and support the district of Development Corp. That can go into a box of its own, but Sigma's connecting the Shuswap North Okanagan Rail Trail project. I mean, that's pretty much underway. The CSRD, the District Recreation Center, we're still working on that, but that's going to be a work in progress and just working with their team. You look at invest in development outdoor recreation, Owl's Head Bike Park, Finlayson Park Pump Track. We still need the outdoor skating and the pavilion that we've talked about, but there's a lot of things in here. If you look at our housing, you can tick off most of those boxes. If you look at health and wellness, the Shuswap Healing Center is done, and we continue to look for healthcare professionals. I would still like to see the School District 83 delegation at some point. I've been asking, still not answering. Okay, and as far as the Development Corp goes, a lot of that stuff, I mean, they can take on that we can oversee, but that can go under their umbrella as well. So I think that we should sit down in the next, I don't know, month or two, and just take some stuff off and leave we've started so that it's still there for the next council to continue with, but let's sit down and have a look at this. So if everyone's in agreement to that, I'd like to ask staff to get us together, maybe an afternoon in council chambers. That'll work for us. That works for us.
You want to do it as part of the cow or you want to do it as
It's a separate workshop.
separate?
We should do it as a separate workshop rather than a cow.
Good.
Okay, so let's do a separate workshop. We usually do our strategic priority plans as a separate workshop. We don't do it, no, normally, we haven't done it in cow. So let's do that. And okay, that's all I wanted to. Does anybody else want to add to the strategic plan? No? Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to parking, if they're starting to get complaints of people parking in front of their place and stuff, would it be helpful to actually have signage that says rail trail parking somewhere, so that we encourage people to?
I think there is, and the Ferry Society is very clear about where you can park and where you can't park. But I just want to send a reminder out that we are still welcoming, but we will have bylaw out and you will be ticketed if you're parked in front of a no parking sign. And we need to enforce that because we've got a lot of traffic coming into Sycamoose and we want to make sure that Sycamoosians aren't upset by the amount of traffic that's coming in, and we're not parking in front of their doors, or we're not parking in their driveways. So it's going to be it's a lot of traffic. So there are designated spaces and there's paid parking. So I just want to remind people that we will be ticketing, and it's not our fault if you're parked in front of a no parking sign. Just saying. Okay, Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair, Dean, do you have an update on the signage for Old Fall Road? Like we talked about last year, about signage, 2 or 3 times getting people to the parking lot over there. That way they don't stop and park in people's yards or in the driveways.
We've been working with the CSRD on that. It has been.
So there is only about 20 parking spots down there, isn't there?
It's not huge.
There's not huge. So instead of trying to cram, I would suggest that instead of trying to, I'd go no parking and move them all over here if we could.
It's not really for the parking lot. It's you gotta convince people not to park in front.
Not to go in there.
They're gonna go and park there anyways. They're not gonna, some don't want to take the ferry. Some know there's a parking lot over there and they just want to park in somebody's driveway. And that's, this past weekend, I saw it again this weekend and I talked to the folks that were there. And they said, we didn't know where the parking lot was. And all they gotta do is put 4, maybe 3 signs on that road, rail trail parking with an arrow, 0.5 kilometer.
And when that gets full, where do they go though?
Then there could be a sign there saying, if this is full, go back and get on the ferry or whatever, but it stops the people from parking in the residence yard. That's what it does do.
And just to follow up on that is cutting through the yards too, because people are already cutting through yards. I've got a couple friends on that side. So people park and then they want to get on the trail. They can see the trail and they don't know that they can go down to Fallon on their bike and then get on the trail. So they're like, and they just make a break for it. But when someone's biking across your patio or your dog, it's very, very frustrating. And I think that's, if CSRD isn't doing their side, that's one thing. But we do have up to IR3 and we can put no parking and no trail access, that says go this way or please come downtown, and we have a free ferry. We can.
I think that's a good idea. I think we should look at some sign. We have some money designated for signage because of traffic. We've got a little pocket that we just saved not that last week. So why don't we just do some signage over there so that those folks aren't frustrated with people parking? Like, our job as a district should make sure our residents aren't frustrated because we've got this influx of traffic. So let's make sure that, and bylaw can definitely be out and about on the weekends now and making sure that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And just one more thing about the rail trail. I've been spending lots of time on it. The lift station has become a viewing platform. I think we need a gate on it, but literally every time I'm down there, there's kids climbing on it, there's tourists taking pictures across the way. So they don't realize, in front of Jim's property is that, which is a right of way, but everybody is kind of taking it as a viewing platform. Like if you were going to Calgary, stopping to look over the spiral tunnels. So I think just even little gates on it with a lock on it. So when the guys need to get to the pump, they can, but people are not, I've seen bikes on it. I've seen dogs on it, people posing for pictures. They don't realize it's sewer, I guess.
Maybe that's a sign that you need. Okay, so, anyone, in the gallery, anyone online that has any questions?
Shit spreader.
No, we're good.
Yeah, there is.
Oh,
Deb.
okay, who do we?
Deb Heap.
Yeah, go ahead, Deb.
Just unmuting there. Yeah, thanks, guys. Sorry, I've kind of been missing in action. My schedule is not lined up very well with council meetings at all lately. But thanks to Gord for mentioning about the community cleanup and the seniors flower beds. We've got about 50 to 60 people signed up. And like he said, we'll have lunch at the Legion afterwards. I have been keeping in touch with Daryl and Bianca and Carly about my Communities in Bloom plans for this year. I will do something formal to council once I get out there. So I don't know if you guys have any questions on that, but I'm working away. I'm busy. I just haven't had a chance to touch base with you guys.
Deb, I have a quick question for you.
Yep.
And probably Dean. You were looking at the health center being included in your.
Yeah, as a showcase submission for Communities in Bloom. The deadline for that is the end of July. And I've kind of been, like thinking about that one for a year or two. So yeah, I understand that the landscaping is going to be largely complete by then.
I'm hoping so.
No?
Yeah, no, Dean says he's hoping so.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought, yeah. And then I'll honestly, the showcase submission is the judges don't come to town for that. That's just me doing, or somebody doing some pictures. And then we just submit, we do a presentation, submission presentation to Communities in Bloom. And I just think that is that's the one for this year.
Okay, thank you. Dean, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, Deb, I believe you received the plans that we had for
Yes.
that.
Yep.
We're
Yep.
working with that construction as soon as we can. There's a few
Okay.
logistic things with that component, but that's our goal, is to get that done.
Perfect. Now, I do have one other quick comment. Listening in on the unsightly premises, because of course I started working on unsightly premises with Mike Mars quite a few years ago, and it's one of those things where I don't think we should be afraid to get creative. Like, I've personally installed screening and shame tell us on social media and done things, and we have had some good results from it, because it does seem that we've been good at dealing with the low-hanging fruit, but they're the ones that have been a problem forever. And I don't know how complicated it is, but we just never seem to be able to deal with it. And so, like I say, it's a big part of why I've done the artboard projects, and and like I say, installing screening on chain link, and just things that it may not be a long-term solution, but it can certainly be really helpful in terms of making things look better in the short term until the long term works out.
Thanks, Deb. Okay, anyone else? Okay, let's call Daryl, did you want to add something? The Oilers are doing you're happy to be here, and go Oilers, go. Go Oilers. Okay, let's call the meeting at 2:30. Can I get Councillor Bailey, Councillor Rich, all in favor, and we